Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Core 4 show. Last week, um, we had an unfortunate event. My mom passed away. And so I apologize to everybody. I just could not do the show, and I know everyone understands. Today is day 7 in this world without my mother. I've been here 53 years. And, this is my mom. And so I want to thank everybody that has uh, shown support, shown concern, shown love for our family during this difficult time. And I just want to take a few seconds to just say, thank you, Mom, for everything that you've done for me, for our family. And you will always be loved and never forgotten. Thank you to the Core 4 family and to the Core 4 friends. And thank you to my friends and family. I love you all. Today we have an incredible show. We have some exciting topics to talk to you guys about. We have some exciting people for you to meet. And so we have some new faces. But what we're going to share with you guys is what is Core 4 all about? Core 4 is all about financial freedom. Core 4 is all about, you know, taking charge and owning everything that's going on in your world and minding your business. When I first got into the crypto space, I was very, very lost and confused because I thought that it was real, the platforms that we were participating in, and I was willing to part with my money to be able to have the opportunity to make more. And I'll tell you that I'm making more now than I ever have before in this crypto platform space because of the principles that Core 4 represents. And one of those major principles that Core 4 represents is keeping custody of your money. And when you have custody of your money, there are times when, yes, you're going to give your money to someone else. But there's also space for you as an investor to be an active investor, do a monicum of work, and make some extraordinary results. And you're going to see those results today. I'm a testimony of it. You have lots of other people that are testimonies of this. And every week, we're going to bring you the best that we possibly can so that you're going to end up being a testimony. So, as we usually provide with the Core 4 show, we have a core forecast, which is an opportunity for you to meet Chris Polver and James Bishop and learn a little bit about where the market is and how you can make money in this market. And that's as an individual or by working with Chris or working with James directly and having some major things happen in your life and really set your future up for something that's amazing. So I know this show is dedicated to my mother, but we're going to stay focused right now on you and how you're going to then take charge of your future and have something extraordinary happen that most people only dream of. So with that, let me bring to the stage Chris Polver. Chris, how are you doing, buddy?
I'm doing well, Brandon.
It's
How
been
are you?
well, I'm okay.
It's been a week, I know.
I know it's been a hard week. It's been full of work, but full of love as well. And so, thank you. So, let me add your analysis to the page. And as I tell people all the time, you may not understand all of this, but every week as you see these charts and you start learning more and more about what Chris is doing, it's just going to help you as you're listening to James and Chris about the economics of the world. You're going to find that they are spot on, and this is going to be your source. Chris, thank you. Go ahead.
Sure. Thank you. Hi, everybody. Happy Sunday. Welcome to the Core 4 show. Happy to be here. So for the most part, last week, very volatile week. We had a lot of news the market digested. Tuesday, US CPI. Friday, US PCE, the personal consumption, or is it PPI? Hang on a second. Let me double check that. I know it's two inflation data points last week. I'll confirm that right here. Friday was PPI. Okay, so we had CPI, PPI last week. Markets were, for the most part, unchanged. We're still sitting near all-time highs. The S&P was down for the week. The Nasdaq was down for the week. The Dow was down for the week, but fractional, less than 1%. Nasdaq was down negative 1.54. Russell, which makes it interesting, the small cap stocks ended up carving out some gains. What I think is interesting, if you tune into the Core 4 show the last couple of weeks, I've been talking about the slight broader look that the market's going after. Investing, people want to see companies that are making money. The smaller cap, the Russell, certainly the Russell, like the top 25 in the Russell 2000 are performing really well. So just taking like the top 25, looking at this kind of just slight expansion, like I said, into broader market. The top 25 in the S&P last week alone outperformed by about 3.5%. The Nasdaq top 25 outperformed by almost 3%. The Russell top 25 outperformed by almost 28%. So there is money going into the small cap space. If you're interested in trading that, IWM is an ETF, and we're right back up near these highs. I still think my forecast for the year, if we can get above 205 on the IWM, the Russell 2000, I think we're going much, much higher. If we want to take a look at the IWX is the Russell 200, the top 200. So you take like the top 10%, you can see that the Russell 200 is actually cracking all-time highs. So making things interesting. One of the stocks I thought was the story that I mean, I'm sure in 2020, 2021, there's a movie on Netflix now called Dumb Money. It's the story of GameStop. There's a documentary called Eat the Rich. This is probably the closest thing I've seen to that since we had GameStop, AMC, Bed Bath & Beyond, J.C. Penney, all these meme stocks that were all about, squeezing the short interest. But SMCI it's in the AI space. This, Nvidia, SMCI, this stock was up 250% year to date. So we're talking like a month and a half of trading. This is up 250%, and you can see this massive candle from Friday, just Friday alone. What I thought was interesting is you can't mathematically have a 100 on the relative strength index. This was trading around 97. So it's about as overbought as you can possibly get on a technical scale. And we had a massive drop last week on Friday. This was down just in a single day about 25.5%. So, like I said, it was great to be chasing, great to be following. I'm safely out of the way with some of my positions here. I've got some credit spreads all the way down to $600. I still think there's going to be a lot of interest to buy this around this, 30%, 30% pullback level. Wouldn't be surprised if we stabilize a little bit, start to see some interest come back. Nvidia has earnings this week to kick it off. We have the markets closed on Monday for President's Day. Nvidia has earnings on Wednesday after market. So I do think that the market's going to be interested in Nvidia as a whole. I remember back in August of last year during Jackson Hole, Nvidia all by itself started to get the markets really rocking and rolling with pre and post market movements, all this anticipation. It put a short term top in. We saw a August September correction. So it'll be interesting to see what the market does this week with volatility on Nvidia. If you're watching the AI space, you're watching the semiconductor space, this will be a big one. You've got some other notables. The EV market, the electric vehicles, Rivian, Lucid, and Nikola are going to have some earnings this week. And then you've got some cash cows and consumer brands like Walmart and Home Depot as well. Let me see a couple other things I thought was interesting. JetBlue had an activist investor, Carl Icahn, take a 9.91% stake in it. I personally own JetBlue. I have since around $7 or sub $7. I'm curious if that stock ends up going a little bit higher and what to do with it. So we were up to as high as 750 last week. I've used some options to lower my cost basis, which is sub 7 right now. If we look at this on the higher time frame, we're sitting at these really nice, post-COVID lows. We're sitting back into levels that we haven't seen since 08, 09, which to me, I think there's good upside potential. Obviously, there's risk in trading, but to get up to $9 wouldn't be an issue. If we get up to $9 and create a nice little bullish pattern, I could see JetBlue getting up, getting off the ground towards $13, $14, which is all I need. I don't need to have this thing, go to the moon. But if I own it at, $6.50 to $7 and it gets to 14, I'll take that. So, there's a lot going on. Like I said, if you're interested in watching stuff this week, keep an eye on Nvidia. NVDA is the ticker. The dollar index with all the news last week. We do have some dollar index watching going on as well. On the daily chart, I'm still bullish on the dollar overall, especially if you have a downturn in the markets this week and the dollar bounces back up. Wouldn't be surprised to see a stronger dollar drifting up in 105.50 to 107.50. until we start looking at levels where I consider topping out on the dollar, at least in the near term. So currency-wise, things are going to be open starting tonight, going into the whole week. Crypto's open as well. Bitcoin made some fresh highs last week. I thought was super interesting. We're trading at 52,000. We blew off that 49 to 50K top. It really brings $68,000 into I'd say into the near mile marker. If you're thinking about where this market can go, a pullback is fine, but 68,000 is not that far away, and we're starting to see a lot of ETF flows coming into these SEC approved Bitcoin related ETFs. So a lot of stuff to keep an eye out for. All I do is continue to trade. I have some safe income generations in my options portfolio position wise. I'm in CrowdStrike, SPY, the indexes, Costco. Like I said, I've got positions on SMCI, Nvidia, Tesla. So I'm just looking to, not chase momentum. I think that's silly. I'm just looking to ride some of it safely out of the way, generate some income, and lower my cost base and just see where the markets want to go. Safely play the indexes and volatility. It's a short trading week with Tuesday to Friday in equities, but it's going to be a busy week nonetheless, as it always is. Thanks, Brandon.
Thank you. Great job. Great job. I mean, a lot of times as you guys are starting to hear Chris talk each and every week, start asking questions. You can put questions in the comments. We'll get back to you. If you're part of our Telegram group, you can put questions there. The goal is for these questions to be answered. Pique your curiosity and learn as much as you can. All right. So next up is James Bishop. He is he's so much. I mean, how do I even describe you? You got the insurance game down, you got the golf game down, and you've also got the economic game down. You're studying to be a doctor, and it's incredible to have you on. So, okay, teammate, you're up. 3 minutes.
All right. Well, Brandon, first, my condolences to you. I shared it via text. Just know everybody loves you and we're praying for you and your family, brother. You know that from my bottom of my heart. But with that said, lot to talk about here today. We had, just like Chris had said, we had CPI and PPI. Now, for those of you guys that don't know, last week we had what's called CPI, which is Consumer Price Index. And that's just a measure of inflation that we use. It's a very popular measure of inflation, gets reported on a lot, and it is widely traded. We saw massive reaction in the US dollar index when that number was reported, because month over month inflation was higher, but year over year inflation was lower. So basically 1 year ago, it was at 3.4%. Now it is at 3.1%. So we're still seeing inflation fall, but it's not falling as fast as they would hope. So that is an interesting outcome there. The other thing that we had was PPI. Now what that is the Producers Purchasing Index, and that's the cost of raw materials. So think of, if I'm manufacturing pencils, I need yellow paint, wood, graphite, rubber for the eraser, and aluminum for the end. If the prices of that stuff go up, that means I have to raise the price of the pencil so I can make money. Well, we saw a kind of a mixed bag there with that. So PPI came in slightly higher for core and regular. So we saw that go increase for more than what we expected to see of an increase. So that means that if the cost of raw materials is going up, that's going to get passed on to the end consumer. Now, coming up this week for economics, as Chris said, we have a bank holiday here in the US and Canada on Monday. But flowing into Tuesday, we have inflation out of Canada. That's going to be a big factor. We have Purchasing Manager Index coming out for all of Europe and Great Britain. And then manufacturing PMI for the US. We had services last week, bank holiday in Japan at the end of the week as well on Thursday. Really just, trickling in the last few days of the month until we get to the end of the month, where we will have some bigger numbers, mainly what's called the PCE, or Price Consumption Index, which is the measure that of inflation that the Fed uses. So really good things that are driving the market opportunity, and it's all about preparation meets timing, and preparation meet, and that's what happens that's what creates success in life. So thank you for the time here tonight.
You're more than welcome. Thank you for your time. You know, a lot of times I say this all the time. Core 4 family, community, utilize your resources and understand that when you have subject matter experts that are talking with you and wanting to help you to develop, help you to understand, help to educate you, utilize it. You know, it's the hardest thing in the world to do, to not trust. And when you have an environment where you can trust, where you can be a part of something that's special, you've got to go for it. So thank you so much. So now we're getting ready to go to the Core 4 report. So one of the big things that we want to learn about Core 4 is that we offer the Forex. The Forex for us, it's $50 for the Telegram channel, and it's $30 for our standard base. And what happens is that when you have the base, which is basically you have a spreadsheet that you can follow, you want to be able to understand that yes, you're active, but you're not really active. It's not like you are every day you're looking at all the stuff that Chris is looking at and all the rest of the analysts and the traders and all the rest of the stuff. You're not doing that. You're basically able to follow along and see what the Ghost Protocol team is doing and what they're trading. And then if you choose, you can do the exact same thing. Because with Core 4, we're an educational company. And so once you get your education, you really learn what it is that's possible. We let you know how we're doing and what our success levels are. And once you understand what our success levels are and you see it week after week after week, then you can make educated decisions on how you want to spend your hard-earned cash in your wallet. And I don't know of too many places where you can go and you can do just that. And so thank you guys for Ghost Protocol team for putting together a way for us to make, you know, so much in our lives, the change in our lives. And just to give you guys an example, last year, you know, over 50,000 pips. And if you calculate that into dollars, you could say that if you were to have $1 per pip, then you would have $50,000. If you were to do $10, you can do the math, it'd be 500,000 and more. And so that's one part of our opportunity. The next part of our opportunity is binary options. And we have two coaches that are providing you guys with an education. It's a curriculum that you can purchase, and you purchase that curriculum, you start to learn it, and then you should be able to do it on your own. And we will report my success and some of the coaches' success so you can see what we're doing and how we're growing. And then you can make a decision, because the same way that I'm being successful with this, the same way that the other students are being successful with this, you're going to kind of mimic that success. So with that being said, we're going to bring India to the stage. India, are you there?
Yes, I'm here. Thank you, Brandon.
All right. How are you today?
I'm well. I'm well. Thank you for having me. So honestly, this week has been pretty productive. We had some new students that came in and averaged about 21% for the week. So I was excited about that because it was basically implementing concepts that they can, like you mentioned earlier, apply and do it on their own. So I'm excited about the results that we had and just looking forward to building that week after week.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Well, let's do it. Let's build it week after week, and let's have some fun changing people's lives. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. All right. So next up, we're going to talk about what my success has been. And so this is my report. You know, I've been working with Coach Vaughn now, as you can see, for longer than January 15th, Coach. But the reality is that we've been having a ball. I mean, this past week, we increased by 35.38%. The week before, 46.48. I mean, you can see 48.66, 37.47, 18.44. Like, it's amazing what we've been able to do together. And, you know, what's incredible about binary options is, you know, you got to lose to really win. But when you understand the psychology behind it and you understand your system of success, what we've been able to do is incredible. And so take it away, Coach.
Well, that all sounds great. You know, we've got a lot of big words that we've heard tonight, and that's all good. You know, we got a lot of coaches in the place, but what I have to share with you is the sauce, right? I'm talking about the sauce that you're not going to get anywhere else. Okay, you're going to get that here at Core 4. Here at Core 4, we're giving you the sauce. And, you know, the big words are good, but what I like to do is actually make money. Oh, yeah. How about that? Right? Making money is what I like to do, right? While I'm moving from state to state, right? While I'm going to different places, I like to be able to jump in, make some money, and get out. You're not going to learn it all in one place, right? You're not going to learn it all in 30 seconds or 3 minutes, right? But there is a lot that we have to share with you, and it works. I am producing children. Look at all of my children. My children are having children, right? Oh, because of the binary options, right? I show you the sauce, and all of a sudden, now you're the master teacher. That's how this works. One session with me, and it's all over. Right, it's all over, Brandon, and we're just going to keep on doing it because we are here to make money. And if we're making money, then that means you can make money also here at the Core 4 Show.
I love it. I love it. Well, you know, I don't even know what to say, but I need you, and I missed you last week, and I'm glad you're back. I'm glad I'm back, and Core 4 is glad you're here.
Coach, can I say one more thing, Coach?
Absolutely.
I'm on TV right now, and here on this TV, I'm as tall as Chris Polver, but I still don't have the jawline. How come you got the height and the jawline? That's not fair, Chris. That is not fair, buddy.
Yeah,
I'm
okay,
sorry,
that's
man.
all.
I'm sorry, man. It's all right. You still look good, and you got more energy than I do.
Thank you so much, Coach Vaughn. All right, so now to the stage is a good friend of mine. We have been fortunate because Core 4 offers Forex, Core 4 offers insurance, Core 4 offers options, regular options, Core 4 offers binary options, and Core 4 also has yield farming. And you know what's interesting is I started yield farming with a good friend of mine, Eric Majors, who I'm getting ready to bring on. And you know, I'm already up, just going from the last week, up almost 20%. It's just incredible. Almost 20% in a little bit more than a week. On another one of my accounts, I'm sorry, 2 weeks rather. On another one of my accounts, just in 2 days, I'm getting 2% in the last 2 days on yield farming. It is so incredible to see that we can have money in our own wallets and control our own destiny, have a course on yield farming, and be able to make the incredible returns that we're making. So, without further ado, our newest member and coach, Eric Majors. Eric, how are you doing, buddy?
I'm doing pretty good, man. I'm just laughing. Yeah, the energy of that last fellow that was on, man. That's just fantastic.
Coach Vaughn, yeah. Well,
yeah.
you're going to have to match that because
well, the good news for you guys is I don't have that kind of energy right now. And that's why I trade pools, because pools are trading while I'm having coffee with my wife, while I'm talking about how tired I am today for some reason, eating everything out of my refrigerator, going out with my daughter, having a good time, and I'm still making money. So I don't have to be Nostradamus. I don't have I can just drop my money into the right pools and go about my life. I went away to Nevis for a couple weeks back for a week. I just checked the pool when I left and when I came back, and I'd made 10% in that 1 week. Yeah. So I'm here to share something with you guys that I've traded in all the markets. I've written books on trading. I've been trading for over, I'm 53 years old now, and I've been trading since I was 19. So I've traded every significant market. I've written about it. I've traded for funds. I still trade for funds. I trade all kinds of things, but I put all my personal money into crypto liquidity pools because there's nowhere else you're going to be able to just plop it and not have to look at it. Frankly, I'm pretty lazy when it comes to that. I don't want to have to stare at my screen all day long. So yeah, I'm looking forward to sharing these insights with people on your show. I'm really thankful and grateful for you to have me on here. This is what I've always wanted to do. This is the first thing that besides writing my book about just the psychology around trading, this course, after all these years, is the only thing that I've ever put out because I feel like I'm giving something to people where I'm not handing them a gun where that they're gonna blow their own head off with. They'll be able to trade this. Anybody can trade it. You can trade it by accident and make money. And you're certainly not trading with leverage or any situation where you're going to lose or you have to be on it all the time. And that's what I love about it. It's just autopilot. You just got to do a little bit of research, understand how it works, and I'm all in it though. I do it all the time, so I'm always looking at the pools, and that's what I'm looking to share with you guys, which ones to get into, how I do it, dollar cost averaging, just simple things anybody can do.
And what I like is, and this is great because we're setting it up so that any of the students that are a part of it, if there's any changes, we're going to be able to have a Telegram group just like we do with the Forex, and you're going to actually be able to see what you're in. I mean, if you're getting 2% a day or 10% a week or whatever else it is, we're going to be able to follow that magic and the history of your success. And so, there's risk with everything. And so, obviously we're not financial advisors, you never put in more than you can afford to lose and all the rest of those kinds of things. But if you're looking to grow your capital and stuff, and you want to control it and be an active side of your success, then Core 4 provides that level of education. And so, what I love is Eric's course is easy to learn. You can learn it, and then Eric is supporting you with the guidance of where he's making some changes, updates. He's got the website is fantastic where you'll be able to plug into. And so it just makes a lot of sense. So welcome to the family. And,
Appreciate it.
we're all looking forward to the relationship that we're going to have with you.
I
Thank you.
appreciate that. Thank you, man.
See you soon. All right. So, listen, you've got incredible opportunities here. What you do with those opportunities is really up to you. You got to mind your own business. Somebody told me, "Oh, well, I need to take a break from, all of this stuff. I've lost so much money." Of course you have, because you turn the money over to someone else. And in the upcoming weeks, we have an incredible thing. We should have done it last week, and we should have obviously done it this week. But we actually have the Core 4 coefficient and the Core 4 quadrant, and we're going to be showing you guys how to do that. I can't stop you. Just like if you go to Vegas, the house always wins. And so in this case, if you do decide that you're going to do something risky where you're going to turn your money to someone else and then expect to get an ROI, then there's certain things that you want to look at. And so we're able to give that to you from a mathematical perspective so that you can make an educated decision on how much money you want to leverage in a project the way the Core 4 family would. And that's what's most important, is how do you set yourself up to do due diligence? And if you're that convicted that you really want to participate in a particular project, then let's have a plan, a strategy for how much money we're willing to invest, how much money we're willing to lose, and then how much money we're willing to give control to other people. So next up, today, I want you guys to understand that Core 4 deals with short-term investments, long-term investments, corporate structure, and corporate strategy. One of the nation's most influential, successful, intelligent, articulate individuals that deals with corporate strategy is Christian Jenkins. And he happens to be on our show tonight. So when you establish a trust, when you establish a foundation, there's lots of people out there that's giving you information and charging you $50,000, $100,000 to do it. And that's because you don't have the education. You don't have the experience. You don't have the resources. You don't have the team. And I, as a former basketball player and a coach, I appreciate teams. I appreciate role players. I appreciate dynamic players that can get it done. And so at Core 4, we want to bring you those dynamic players, and we have. And so our resident trust superhero is Christian. And I'm going to bring him to the Core 4 community. And I want you guys to really listen to him, because what we're telling you on the front end, which is the short-term and the long-term investment opportunities, you're going to need to do something with that capital, and you're going to need to protect it. I'm going through that right now. And I'm thankful that I have Christian in my life, because I have someone to talk to, someone to strategize with, and someone that cares about me and my success. And he is going to care about you as you get to know Christian. Because understand this, that the Core 4 show allows you with Chris Polver, allows you with India, allows you with Coach Vaughn, allows you with Coach Sonia, allows you with Coach Eric, allows you with Coach James, allows you to get to know us every single week. And if you didn't catch the show live, then you can catch it in other ways. And so now we're going to bring on Coach Christian. And what's beautiful is, Christian, we had a chance to have dinner and break bread. And you're actually from here, but you live down in Florida. Isn't that correct?
Yes. How are you? How are you doing today?
I'm doing great, man. So thank you for
Good.
being on the show. Where are you now? Are you in Florida?
Yes.
Lucky
Yes.
you.
Where it's sunny.
Exactly, where it's sunny, where it was snowing a little bit.
Yes. Condolences to you and your family, and definitely sending positive energy and well wishes to you all in your process right now of grieving.
I feel it. I feel it. And I need the family to get through this. And you guys are my extended family. So thank you very much for that.
Yep.
So now we're going to talk a little bit about trust. So can you tell me, Christian, why do we need a trust?
This is actually very apropos for your situation. People, when they pass, they're either going to pass with some type of estate plan in place, or they're not. And there's a disadvantage to not having a plan in place, and there's an advantage to having a plan in place. Some of the advantages are tax liability and mainly just being able to not lose money that you've earned throughout your life via either double taxation or paying it to fees to people that aren't inside of the family and things of that nature. So what I've been able to do over the past few years is just develop a plan to work with each individual family and help them put a plan in place for their specific situation at that current moment.
So, what is the difference between a public trust and a private trust then?
That's a great question. So traditionally, your public trust are going to be trusts that are created to operate within the United States for the most part. Private trusts are traditionally set up to operate in foreign jurisdictions. So
now, do you file a trust with the government, or do you actually keep it? Like I hear that all the time. Like, I have a trust, right? And so I have my house in the trust, or I have some assets in the trust. How do you actually make sure that it's registered so that when something happens like what I'm going through, that it's valid? How does that work?
Traditionally, if you deal with certain types of property, there's going to go through a title clearing process. But for your smaller pieces and items, those things are just recorded privately in the document. So if there's ever a dispute, the document has record that it has those assets on its books.
So a lot of people feel like, and they tell me this all the time, they're like, Brandon, I have my mortgage on my home. How can I put my house in a trust if I haven't paid it off completely? How does that work?
That's a great question. That's a great question. So traditionally, working with our clientele, they're usually going to be trustees. And so in turn, some trustees may not receive compensation. And by that being the case, there's normal fringe benefits, or normal benefits to a company, whether it's a trust or LLC, that allows the company to expense out those expenses for paying for someone to have housing. So there's ways to get that done. It doesn't have to be completely titled over with ownership, but there are ways to create a fringe benefit.
Do you know, like, one of the things, and you may not know the answer to this, is it so let's say I were to title my house that has a mortgage on it into a
Mhm.
trust. Do I have to notify the bank that I've done this? And if I do notify them or they find out, is there an acceleration clause? Because I've heard this, that even though they
Yeah,
say that, it's not legally that they can actually take the property from you or demand the full amount.
right. And so, of course, this isn't legal advice. There's many ways to skin a cat. You don't need to put the house directly inside of the trust on paper to actually have the trust to make payments on the mortgage. It's like asking right now, if you had a mortgage, could I make those payments and would the mortgage company continue to accept it? So
Mhm.
yes. So traditionally what happens is there's just contracts that are put in place that those people don't have to make those payments anymore because there is another person, which would be the trust, making those payments.
Got you. So, number one, is a trust something that somebody would want to try to figure out on their own and do it online? And because you got revocable, you got living, you got land trust. I mean, you got 10,000 trusts. So,
Right.
how do you recommend people think about it? Because at the end of the day, you're an expert, right? But sometimes people want to do it yourself. But what is it that you would suggest to people, if they don't either have the money, like where do they go? Like, how does that work?
So there's the cheap way, and then there's the way where you most likely will be able to be bulletproof. So working with someone like myself or in the same field that has that level of expertise to put you in a private. So that's armed and bulletproof, or you could go to cheap route and you could go to a law library and they'll traditionally have public trust contracts at the law library. It's the same thing with your question. Can you just go online and go to like some website and print out a trust document? And those things don't have the highest level of protections. It doesn't have a high level of detail in the contract. So going to someone specifically is more appropriate. Not doing it on your own. Remember, we're engaged in private trust. So traditionally in private trust, you are either educated by a mentor or a private family. That means it's either your family or someone else's family. But traditionally, the information is passed along amongst families. Uh, it wouldn't be something where a person could just Google private information. It wouldn't be private information if they could just Google it. So that kind of fortifies our environment, and it doesn't allow people to just say, "Hey, I'm going to Google that information," because the information that we traditionally engage in is not Googleable, and it costs even a certain amount of money to be involved.
So let's talk a little bit about that. So, I know the answer to this because obviously we know each other very well. But, why would somebody come to Christian versus going to a big law firm to get a trust done? What's the value added to be with Christian?
That's a great question. So what we do is trustee training. Our whole program is set up for us to work with your team and train a successor. So a lot of people are scared about that situation. They're very much so scared about, well, if I am the trustee for right now, how do I pick another successor trustee? How do I have trustees in place after me? Who should I have as the trustee? Are my children going to be competent? Things of that nature. And so that's something that we help put processes. We actually help them put a system of procedures in place as well, so they can either select that individual or there's a system that will select that individual when that time comes. So what we do is we work with our client on a one-on-one basis to help them find that successor. Whereas if you go to any lawyer or any traditional person that deals with estate planning, they'll want to manage your wealth. And in turn, that means they're going to get paid based off of fees. So that's just not the business model that we have. Our business model is not based off of fees. It's more of a one-time transaction for working with families on a consulting basis, but not where we're always focused on fees. And for every transaction at that, our program is communal based. focused on building a community around people that are in trust, because people in trust deal with people in trust. So those are some advantages with working with us. Whereas if you go to a traditional lawyer, they'll end up putting you in a trust, and there's nothing wrong with that. But you'll end up probably having to go back to them for everything. Whereas we work with our clientele, we record private calls for them to get information that they would traditionally have to pay multiple times over and over. We give that to them one time, and then they have that information for successors as well.
Excellent. Excellent. How much money do you need then to start a trust? Because, people are, where do they need to be in their life's process to start one?
That's a great question. So if you have a house, but you have no money, should you put it in trust? Of course. It's an asset. So anyone that is afraid of losing something, oh man, I'm sitting around and I got $10,000-$15,000 in my hand and I don't want to lose it to a lawsuit or have it double taxed, or if somebody sue me, then they could try to sue me for my assets. If I have the $10,000 or whatever amount of money in my name, then in turn it is a liability. So somebody that has, I would say a decent amount of cash that they want to protect, anything over, $10,000 plus, for somebody that doesn't have that type of capital, that could be a lot for them. So is it worth for them to protect it? If let's just say the risk is that they have to invest $2,000 for a trust, in turn, they're protecting the $10,000 plus that they could have lost. So there's a cost to doing business, and the cost to protect your money and put it in the correct position is what I would say they would be looking at. So it's no defined what do they need. I would say if they have something to protect, then there's no minimal amount. It's just something that needs to be protected. A family heirloom may not have a price on it, but it may need to be protected. So that's why they're going to be entrusted, because they have something to protect, not just because they have money.
That makes sense. So like a Rolex watch could be put in a trust.
100%.
So let's talk a little bit about this privacy. Like if, let's say I have a property in a trust and I don't want anybody to know that I own that property. If it's in a trust, is it completely shielded so that people who do a search, or a mortgage company that does a search, or whoever else, they can't actually figure out if somebody who has it is the owner of the trust?
That's a great question. So that's another way that we distinguish ourselves. We deal with private, whereas public, you probably will still own it through the entity itself. In the private sector, you don't. So yes, you could do that. You could give away the asset, and the asset is in now with a separate person. So in turn, it deals with a different liability. But yes, a trust can own a Rolex.
A trust can own a Rolex, and it can be private, so private that no one would know who actually is the owner of the Rolex.
Well, they'll know the owner. When you say that they won't know, it's not like it's really on public record if it's a private situation, but it is on the company's books or the trust books that it owns the piece of property. Because if there's a dispute in the public, then the trust is going to come forth, such as yourself as the trustee. You would come forth and you would say, hey, this is the trust property, and you have record to prove that's trust property. But it's not on public record sitting around. Remember, it's private trust, so it's not sitting around on public record for all the assets that the private trust owns.
So then, do I want my children to be the beneficiary of a trust? How does that typically work?
So this goes in. We're more of an elite category when we talk about private trust. So this is where you see a lot of wealthy people say, I'm not going to leave money to my children. And that's because if you leave money directly to them, they'll be taxable. So the easiest way to avoid that, even though there's many ways people talk about paying your children, is tax deferral and all this other good stuff, but it's a very easy answer. It's called no, our children will not be beneficiaries. We'll give it to charity. Well, in turn, a charity can create a business. It can create a business for the children, things of that nature. So we're not limited in our options when we say, oh, we're giving it to a charity. Traditionally, that's for, they call it tax purposes or to lower the liability purposes. So yeah, if you give it to your children, they will be liable. Sure, they can say, oh, there's certain amounts. Well, we're talking about wealth. We're not talking about just money. We're talking about wealth. So if someone says, well, yeah, you can pass along, you don't have to worry about the threshold till $12 million. Doesn't sound wealthy. Wealthy people are not trying to avoid just that little bit amount of money to pass along tax free. So what happens when you do get over those $12 million if you actually plan on doing that? So traditionally, those people, we work with them in that capacity because they're not thinking about just the small estate tax deduction. They are looking for a full suite. And so a full suite means you wouldn't want to cover one base and not cover the other. And one of the bases is once again us training the children to be successors, if possible, and them not be the beneficiary. Because as a successor, they just manage the property just like you. But as a beneficiary, it's like anything you hear with the word beneficial in it. It means you're the beneficial owner, and so that in turn means they're liable for anything that they receive. Whereas there's a difference between right of use and actually receiving a payment or receiving money. There's a difference between right of use. Right of use, those are rules. Those are laws that we make sure our trustees are educated in. But right of use is definitely not illegal. You can do right of use. It's just, okay, are you the beneficiary of this situation as well? So no, we don't want our children to be taxable. So that's why I hear a lot of wealthy people say, I'm not going to give money directly to my children. I'm going to give it to charity.
And so I'm reading into that a little bit, but I know you're coming to Maryland for our event. I think you're going to go a little deeper into that. But
yeah,
you said a lot there, and a lot of people may not understand exactly what you said. I totally see it. And, a lot of this is understanding how to work with the law and how to work with in the government so that you're doing things properly and in proper order, and things can work for everybody, and it's just understanding how the language of the law works and having it make sense to you. That was a great answer. How much does it cost to get in a trust? How much does it cost to get one drafted?
So somebody that's making over $10 million a year, the cost of the trust shouldn't be the same as somebody that's making 80K or 100K. So I would definitely say that varies. You can get trust documents online on the low end for $500, and then I would say, you think about the document itself. It's an entity, so it's going to protect what you put in it. So if you put $1 million in it, how much should this entity be worth? So traditionally in our sector, I would say it's probably 2% of the portfolio cost.
Okay.
I would say that, on the bigger end, it should be, 2% most likely of the portfolio cost. Somebody has over, $1 million, the cost can add up. But really, you think about it, somebody that has a type of capital, they are just paying for a contract. So that's why they come to people like us, where we work with them on a consulting basis. But somebody on the lower end, when we talk about 2%, it may not be 2%, but I would say, if you paid, $10,000-$12,000, you could expect like half of what you paid last year, so you can be in a position where you never have to deal with that ever again. That's another thing, is you actually are making a one-time investment in yourself and the family, to where they're going to minimize costs long term. So you are saving money by actually making that investment.
Understood. So how is a trust a tool for wealth transfers?
So it's as simple as your case. Right now, mom could have had a house, could have had cars, and nobody in the family flinches. The insurance policy is going to make a payment into the trust. In turn, that's going to pay for the expenses. And in turn, no assets need to get moved. No cars, no houses, no anything. Why doesn't anything need to be moved? Because she relinquished ownership. She doesn't own any assets. The trust owned all of the assets. It owned everything that she had. And in turn, you're going to the bank and you're going to give them a successor trustee document. And in turn, you take over bank accounts, various different pieces of property. You update the record that this trustee has deceased. I'm the new trustee. I'm now going to be taking over these assets as a trustee. And in turn, there is no real financial consequence for that. for that situation happening. Um, and it's a really good thing because it puts a lot of family structure in place. So it's an easy duplicatable process. That's something that for each family member, it can just happen over and over. And so once again, we are saving money and holding on to money long term when we don't have to deal with probate. Even if your family dies without a will, so they die intestate, but if they die in probate, I mean, who on this line right now can tell me that they're willing to give 7% away of their wealth? But if you're not aware, you're easily going to give away 7% of your wealth in probate court. No doubt about it. Probate court, because you have to deal with fees. You have to deal with lawyer fees, court fees. So even probate alone is a system that is put in place that, yes, you can go through that and end up having to deal with a bunch of fees. So the tool is to minimize the liability, not only for the individual, but for cost savings as well.
So can I start a trust without any assets?
Somebody would, when you say start a trust without assets, unless they were immediately like, you can start of course you can start a trust without an asset. It would just be unsustainable because the trust doesn't have anything to, it's not there to take care of anything. Traditionally, a trust is to actually take care of something. So even if it's small, somebody has a wedding band, can that go inside of a trust? Yes, because the trust can own that asset. If it's stolen, there could be insurance policy. There's a bunch of opportunities to hold value with the trust holding that asset as opposed to you holding that asset.
So then how easy is it to add something to a trust or to take it away, to take it out?
It's as simple as when you have an LLC and you're looking to put money in the LLC, you create a corporate minute and you put the amount that you're putting into the corporate bank account and deal with it that way. It's the same thing with the trust. It has a trust minute. Assets will be placed on that minute, that schedule. And then if anything ever, remember, a trust is like me and you. It's like a person. They could buy, sell, hold, and lease property. So yes, it is one of those things that it can sell those assets. And so what is it? A buy, sell, lease a document, or a sell document. Those things are the trust document. Trust will actually provide those documents when it's making a sale. All of those good things. Trust holds deeds. Trust holds a lot of. Once again, it can buy, sell, hold, and lease property.
This is taking me to another question. Like, how do you know you should start a trust? Like, what is some of the triggers? I mean, obviously in the family situation that we're going through, you say, oh, now we need to trust or whatever. But what are some of the things that one should be looking at to know they should be starting or looking at a trust?
So unfortunately, because people are uneducated, backwards at least too as well, it's called, go out, work hard, get money, and then do something with it productive. Whereas in our sector, our families are trained initially that there's a family trust, and then under that there are business entities that various family members open, and in turn, uh, that's how they operate in business, no matter if they have an asset or not. So somebody's already not in that position, but they're generating cash flow. The best thing to do is to protect that asset. So they're looking to protect an asset. The reason why you're going to go into that situation is because you're looking to protect an asset.
This whole concept is fascinating, and the idea that this Core Force show is dedicated to my mom, and her passing, and then we're having this as the immediate show, really shows, whether you're a believer or not, that there is a God, right?
Mm-hmm.
And for all those that are listening today live, and for all those that, care or are looking at this as a replay, it's fascinating. There is divine order with this. You're an incredible resource. You've been a great friend. And, I personally want to just tell you how much I appreciate your time. My family utilizing you as our trust counselor. And I know that there's so much more. I will start the announcement. We are having June 28th to June 30th, and I know you're going to be here in Maryland. We do have the Core 4 Summit. And so it's going to be an opportunity where people can come and they're going to get a chance to meet you, have time with you. You're going to share with them along with the other guests that we have. And what's beautiful is that there's sincerity. I know that you care about each individual. I know that it's not about the money that you make, but it's about the money that we keep. And that's why you do this. And so I just want to thank you for being a part of the Core 4 family. And Core 4 appreciates you too. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Definitely. Thank you.
All right, guys. The Core 4 show is something that is dear to me because it addresses all the things that I personally would have loved to have solved earlier in my life. Number one, how can I make money and not have a 9 to 5? How can I make money and have investments so that if there's things that I really want to push for, freedom of time, freedom of whatever, I have now the resources to be able to do that. Retirement. What happens when I want to stop actively making money, where I have custody in my own account? Where does that leave me? What about my mindset to make money? All of this is extraordinarily important. And so Core 4 addresses this in a way that we haven't seen before. Otherwise, we would have already seen it. But it's here now. And so how you decide that you want to take a look at your finances, your future, your control. The numbers that we have reported to you are real. They're just flat out real. And the reality of it is that it's duplicatable, and it doesn't have to break your bank to try to make additional capital in your life. And now we're talking about corporate strategy, and the corporate strategy that you will get with your relationship with Christian is amazing. So taking advantage of all the things that we've ever wanted. It's kind of like when I was a basketball player as a kid, and I walk in and here's Magic Johnson. And he's saying, "Hey, Brandon, I want to teach you basketball." And you ignore it, or I ignore it. That if I want to be a basketball player, then I want to talk to subject matter experts. I want to talk to people who are being the best version of themselves. I want to talk to and I want to be around people that inspire me. Core 4 inspires. And with that being said, my mom, my mother, inspired me to be the best version of myself. And I'm doing that every day, working on it, and I'm learning lessons from her even when she's not here. And so I want to say thank you, Mom, again, for everything. Thank you, Core 4. My mother is an honorary Core 4. She asked me, she said 2 weeks ago, how much does it cost again to join Core 4? And I said, okay, I'll just pay for it myself. It is not a big deal. My mom is Core 4. I love you, Mom. Everybody, I love you guys too, whether you like it or not. Thank you for your time. Good night.